about you, Johnny, but I'm not seeing mainstream media or even a lot of the alternative indie media cover this story. It is an unprecedented time. It is one of the most important things that can be happening right now, this trial, and especially for journalists, especially for people in media, especially for those of us that rely on truth tellers to expose what the mainstream media propagandists and the government have been doing behind our backs for decades in order to inform the public, so they in turn don't continue thinking that things are okay as they have for a long time.
Yeah, it was really important what WikiLeaks released with that video. It was
Right.
called Collateral, right? Collateral damage.
And it sucks that we don't have it this time around right now. And that is because Julian Assange, they're trying to make an example out of him, and they're trying to really go after him in this way to show that you can't really expose what the government has done, even though it's the truth. And that's why we have to fight against this. It's also Bernie Sanders' birthday. So happy birthday to Bernie Sanders. But I did ask him to speak out and pardon Julian Assange because he hasn't done that. So let's get to it, Johnny, because we have a lot of stuff to cover. Are we all good on all the social media?
ROKFIN was taking a little bit. There it is. Okay.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah, now we're up on ROKFIN.
So we're up on ROKFIN. Guys, check us out on ROKFIN if you haven't already. But so let's start with day one, because this kind of gets really wonky and really detailed, so you kind of have to follow it along. So we're going to try to best summarize it.
So for context, fam, Julian Assange is in the UK, right?
Right. So I'm going to go over all of that.
Okay,
Just give me
great.
a second. So the Assange trial, day one, brought a new indictment, and this was going to be the one replacing the indictment that was previously there. So I'm just going to start in the beginning to remind everybody that Assange is fighting an attempt by American prosecutors to extradite him to the U.S. to stand trial on spying charges. Right now, he is in the UK, and that's where the trial is being held. And Assange is accused of 17 counts of violating the Espionage Act and 1 count of violating a computer crime law that, as alleged in the indictment, is also an Espionage Act offense. The charges together carry a maximum sentence of 175 years in prison. And the trial portion of his extradition hearing in London began yesterday, Monday, September 7th, at the Old Bailey Courthouse in London. And it's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks to get through all the witnesses, because they have about a vast amount of number of witnesses. And on June 24th of this year, the defense learned that Assange was going to face a third indictment, and the U.S. government served the indictment to the defense on July 2nd, even though they learned that they would be facing it on the 24th. And on August 12th, a fresh extradition request was based on the third indictment was issued, and it was dated July 17th. So they have been kind of like holding information and then letting them know after the fact, which is why the dates are important. On August 21st, prosecutors told the defense that the third indictment would not include any additional charges, but it includes conduct. And by conduct, it means it's very specific things that aren't necessarily related to what they were told before. They're focusing on his supposedly colluding with anonymous hacktivist groups and co-conspirators regarding the hacking. Many of these people were already subject of trials in the U.S. and in the UK a decade ago, and some are already serving in prison or have already been charged. So the kind of like the backlash to that is that even though they're trying to say that he was colluding and working with these co-conspirators, a lot of them, if he had been involved in that, they could have already prosecuted him for that, because those people were prosecuted like nearly a decade ago. Mark Summers is the lawyer for Assange, one of them, and he referenced 2 allegations, 1 count of an alleged conspiracy to release, quote, national defense information, and another count 2, an alleged conspiracy to commit computer intrusions under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. By adding new material, prosecutors think that can extradite Assange, even if they do not convince the court that publishing disclosures from Chelsea Manning was a criminal act. So even if they can't convince the court that publishing those documents is unlawful, they, under this new extradition, this new indictment, they can say that they can still extradite him because it's based on another it's the same charge, but it's based on more specific terms, like I mentioned above. So the judge is Vanessa Barrister, and she rejected the request by the defense for Julian Assange to remove conduct from a fresh extradition request brought by the United States. So they wanted to remove that part, and she rejected the request. And if you guys want to read in detail specifics of like what she said and what she used for that, go check out shadowproof.com, and I believe Kevin Gostola is the one that's covering it. He has direct access to the trial. Only a certain amount of people got access to that trial, and it's obviously it's COVID, so nobody is physically in the courtroom, but people have access to the video of the trial that's going on. Did you want to say anything?
No.
Okay. So Assange was, like I said, rearrested under this new superseding indictment. So this one replaced the old indictment, but it didn't give him any charges. And I have Taylor, who is with Activism Munich, who's going to kind of touch up on that briefly. So let's watch what she said.
I'm Taylor Hudak with Activism Munich, and today wraps up the first day of Julian Assange's extradition hearings. Now, earlier today, Assange was rearrested under the new superseding indictment, which made the previous extradition requests dismissed and void. This new superseding indictment does not include any additional charges. However, it does allege that Assange conspired with the hacktivist collective Anonymous, specifically the group LulzSec. It also alleges that Assange encouraged members of the public to leak to WikiLeaks and encouraged an individual to hack into an Icelandic bank company. The defense did file a request today to dismiss this evidence in the case. However, the judge did deny that request. The defense then went on to request that this extradition hearing be postponed, and that request was denied as well. Emmy, can you tell me, what are your thoughts on this first day of the extradition hearings?
It's a very difficult time. We are returning to court for the second part of the extradition hearing in the Julian Assange case. The most alarming reports are coming out from the court, restricting access to the public, restricting access to the press, as well as civil society groups, non-governmental organizations, parliamentarians, etc. It doesn't seem like open justice. But this is not a surprise for someone who has followed the case at every step. We have seen process abuse again and again. Julian Assange health has...
Okay. So, again,
period of 10 years, he's not going to likely find justice inside this court. Our efforts continue with solidarity, as well as civil society groups, non-governmental organizations, parliamentarians, etc. It doesn't seem like open justice. But this is not a surprise for someone who has followed the case at every step. We have seen process abuse again and again. Julian Assange health has suffered over a period of 10 years. He's not going to likely find justice inside this court. Our efforts continue with solidarity activism outside the court. Please find the opportunity to use whatever tools you have available to assist in campaigning for Julian Assange freedom and for press freedom that is in the dock today. So write to your parliamentarians, representatives, write to the press, write to your local government, and try to mobilize civil society for this very, very important battle for human rights and democracy.
Okay, so basically she pretty much reiterated that it's a new indictment, and what this lady was saying is true. People were outside of the Bailey courthouse, and they were asking for his freedom, etc. And one of the things that happened was that people were saying this was a sham of a trial because a lot of the people that were supposed to be allowed in, a lot of the political observers, a lot of the activists were not allowed in at the last minute. They were verified and then they weren't allowed in. But according this article right here, World Socialist website, basically talks about how the picards, which are like the signs, said jail the war criminals, free Julian Assange. And then Assange's father, which we have a short video of him speaking later, addressed the protesters, holding his phone to the microphone. And he played the soundtrack to the WikiLeaks collateral murder video, which was published on April 2010 and exposed the U.S. war crimes in Iraq. And he said, just as you heard the lie that those people had weapons, the same lies are spread about Julian over and over again. It's 11 years that he's been banged up. Julian has 2 young children. What concerns me today is the rights of those children. They were able to visit Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison the other day, but they weren't allowed to embrace their father under the regulation that if they touched each other, Julian would have to spend 2 weeks in self-isolation and quarantine in jail, as if the circumstances were not dire enough. Assange believes that journalists are the agents of people, not power, that we the people have a right to know about the darkest secrets of those who claim to act in our name. If the powerful lie to us, we have the right to know. If they say one thing in private and the opposite in public, we have the right to know. If they conspire against us, as Bush and Blair did over Iraq, then pretend to be Democrats, we have the right to know. He also said the imperial shock troops would be those who call themselves journalists, the big hitters of the so-called mainstream, especially the liberals who mark and patrol the perimeters of dissent. And that is what happened. I have been a reporter for more than 50 years, and I have never known a smear campaign like it. The fabricated character assassination of a man who refused to join the club, who believed journalism was a service to the public, never to those above. So he continued talking about the truth tellers, etc. And he said, It is said that whatever happens to Julian Assange in the next 3 weeks will diminish, if not destroy, the freedom of the press in the West. But which press? The Guardian, the BBC, the New York Times, Jeff Bezos' Washington Post? No. The journalists in these organizations can breathe freely. The Judases on The Guardian who flirted with Julian, exploited his landmark work, made their pile, then betrayed him, have nothing to fear. They are safe because they are needed. So, Rafsan, who was the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, was not allowed in the courtroom. He was offered a seat on the balcony overlooking another room where journalists were working and watching on a video screen that he couldn't see and he could barely hear. So this is kind of like the protest. And I'm going to read real quick from Cheryl, who is one of the supporters that was there holding signs. If you just scroll to the bottom, her name is Cheryl. And she says, he has no charges to answer. They lied about his rape allegation concocted by the Swedish authorities. When the rape allegation served its purpose, they kicked him out of the embassy, and he is now theirs to torture. It was always a vindictive campaign to attack this guy and put him away for daring to expose war crimes. Nothing more, nothing less. And according to her as well, Judge Vanessa Berder has connections to the case, which undermines the whole objectivity of all her rulings. She should not even be there. The U.S. is in charge of that judge, I suspect, and she does what they tell her to do. You would expect that sort of thing to happen in some small South American country. The government talks about the rule of law, and nothing they do is about the law. Later on, she says the media is now the parrot of the state. They are not the fifth estate anymore. They are the fifth column, nicely dressed, but enforcers of the surveillance state, the rogue state. They just do as they are told. They are not there to do the news and journalism. They are there to pacify us and make us think that we get the news, but it's all fake. So she goes on to talk about how Jeremy Corbyn failed by not standing up against the smear campaign against him for anti-Semitism, and that Bernie Sanders very similarly also suffered from that lack of leadership, so to speak. So a lot of people are obviously, at least in the UK, showing their support for Julian Assange. I haven't seen that here. I haven't seen TYT talk about it. I haven't seen a lot of commentators talk about it. People like Taylor that are on the ground, and people like Kevin that are doing a great job. I know Grayzone has talked about it, but really, like, it's the usual suspects. Action for Assange is in DC, and we should have them on the air this week at some point. So it's like I said, the usual suspects. It is not in their best interest, like Cheryl said, to really go after to stand up for Julian Assange, because they have it all well. It's fine. They're cozy in what they're doing. So here's the other video with Taylor in it, where she's talking about the hundreds of protesters and the high profile speakers that gathered to show support for Assange yesterday.
Is that on the same page?
Well, it's on the link on the thing. No, it's not. It's on Twitter. Right here.
Gotta turn off the music. Don't want to get copyright.
I'm Taylor Hudak with Activism Munich. I'm in London outside the Old Bailey Courthouse. Today is the first day of Julian Assange's substantive extradition hearings. Now, all morning long, there has been a lot of support for Assange, for WikiLeaks, and for a free press. As you can tell behind me, there has been a band playing, and the DEA campaign has been here, as well as many other professional organizations. Now, earlier this morning, there were a series of speeches that were given by John Shipton, John Rees, John Pilger, as well as Kristen Hrafnsson.
I was asked a little earlier, are you hopeful? Am I hopeful for justice? I am hesitant to be hopeful, but hope is not enough. We need to fight for the justice. We need to show our determination to have this extradition request dismissed.
Rebecca Vincent of Reporters Without Borders, who has been monitoring this case and advocating for Julian Assange, also addressed a crowd of protesters earlier this morning.
We attempted to deliver a petition with over 80,000 signatures calling on the UK authorities not to extradite Julian Assange to the United States. Along with Julian's partner Stella Morris, we went to 10 Downing Street, where we were told as well that essentially British democracy is not currently functioning. They will not accept any petitions.
How is your perspective on how there has been a lack of open justice in this case regarding previous hearings and issues with the video link?
Well, I mean, it isn't open justice when I'm standing here out on the street. I represent the organization which is basically on trial alongside Julian Assange, and I'm not allowed into the courtroom. There are observers here from human rights organizations who want to observe that justice is being done. They are not allowed in, they're not recognized.
So, like he said, many people weren't allowed in. They weren't recognized. He is the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks. So, obviously, they tried to keep him out. And Stefan Samanowitz also brought a nice thread, if you guys want to check it out, on basically everything that's happened since the beginning. And I just want to highlight a couple of things. If extradited to the U.S., Julian Assange would face detention conditions that could amount to torture, as well as the possibility of an unfair trial, and that it is vital that the right to freedom of expression and access to information are protected. This guy is with Amnesty International, which, I mean, is hit or miss on a lot of things, but they were completely excluded from being allowed in there. The UK authorities are not obliged to send Julian Assange to the US. So that's something to consider. They don't have to do that. But obviously they're cutting some sort of deal with the United States to really prevent him, or to really like have this trial when it's obviously not fair. And we're going to go over more as to how that is. Stefan Samanowitz also talked about how this is not normal. At Amnesty is almost always granted access to monitor court cases around the world. For our legal observer to find out this morning that he has not been granted even remote access to the quote or hashtag Assange proceedings is an outrage. And let's watch quick second of this video.
Shocked to find out that our court observer has been denied access to the court online. This is Amnesty's bread and butter. We conduct trial monitoring all over the world, week in, week out, and indeed are recognized internationally as an accredited international fair trial observer. We were first denied physical access to the court when we applied back in August. We were then granted 6 remote online observer places, which were reduced just a couple of days ago to 1. Now we found out this morning that even that one place has been refused, ostensibly because we didn't submit a letter to the judge who is presiding over the trial. We are submitting that letter right now. We had conformed to all of the procedures before this morning, so we're fully expecting that the judge will allow access after the lunch recess. And
we have been expected to get in?
We were granted permission to be in before we learned this morning that access has been withdrawn. So we're absolutely expecting that the decision will be reversed within the next few hours. Shocked.
And Edward Snowden actually retweeted the thread we're going to look at by Kevin Gostela, who has access to the video. And he said, read this and tell me that the show trial of Assange doesn't read like something from Kafka. The judge permits the charges to be changed so frequently the defense doesn't even know what they are. That's why when I was reading it earlier, they were getting the information as a press release. They weren't directly informed right away. The most basic demands are denied. No one can hear what the defendant says. A farce. So a lot of people are calling this trial a farce and saying it's entirely unfair. So
you wanted to look at this?
Yeah, so I'm going to highlight a couple things from Kevin's thread. If you have the time, it's a very long one, but it's a very good one. I would go read it. But one of the things I'm going to highlight is that, well, the Assange was Snowden was named later on, but basically what we already went over, the whole thing was that the Assange's legal team was challenging whether the U.S. government can seek extradition pursuant to new allegations in the latest indictment. And according to the defense, the U.S. has offered no explanation for absence of these allegations from first or even second indictment, where allegations date from 2009 and could have been prosecuted at any time in the last decade, including prior to emergence of Swedish proceedings. Meaning, like I said, if they were going to prosecute him for working with the hacktivists that they were talking about, they could have already done so because that happened like a decade ago. And it's a very long thread. It's very, like I said, it's good. We pretty much summarized everything that says on there. He's also the author of the article. But the prosecutor maintains Vanessa Barrister, the judge, must consider statutory schemes before it can exercise power to remove conduct from the fresh extradition request. So again, they don't want to remove the conduct part from this new indictment, and that's what she completely denied. She completely denied that request. And I wanted to go over day 2 as much as we can, because today there was a couple of things that happened. And
today's day 2.
Yeah. Okay. Today's day 2, but remember it's the UK, so they're ahead. They're a few hours ahead. So when they're covering this, or people are getting up the crack of dawn to actually cover this. But let's go over what Mohammed El Mazi said, because he started to say a couple of things here. Today, between 2 to 3 defense witnesses were expected to testify. I believe only 2 witnesses have testified. They're averaging about 2 witnesses a day. And the WikiLeaks editor-in-chief, Harfson, explained that he expects the witnesses to rebut absurdities from prosecutors that Julian Assange is not a journalist and that his activities, which are the subject the U.S. indictment against him, aren't journalistic activities. So here's a little bit of what he has said to them.
Where are you at?
Mohammed Almazi, just...
Is that day 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't know you skipped the graphics.
Yeah, I'm going to go over that in a second.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So there's photos here.
Yeah, and then it's a little video.
It's all right, I've got it. Thanks.
Are you expecting anything? What are we expecting to happen today?
No, just there will be a witnesses call today. We're probably going to hear more arguments, basically dismissing all these absurdities and the claims that Julian is not a journalist and his activity outlined in this horrendous indictments are not a journalistic activity. So there will be plenty of experts to attest to that this is a journalistic thing that he did back in 2010-11. So let's hope that they will be able to convince the court, although I'm not too optimistic, I have to admit.
Okay, so day 2, just to summarize it because a lot happened, Assange's legal team focused their attention on the U.S. state's torture and war crimes that Assange helped expose, kind of noting that that was essential for people to know about what the U.S. was doing. The defense, Mark Summers, called Clive Stafford Smith. So this guy was a human rights attorney. He's represented prisoners at Guantanamo Bay, and they called him to the witness stand today. They asked him about human rights cases he pursued, and these cases were backed by the publishing in WikiLeaks. They reinforced his cases. Smith told the judge, Vanessa Barrister, that the U.S. State Department cables helped those impacted by U.S. drone killings in Pakistan, contributing to, quote, court findings that U.S. drone strikes are criminal offenses and that criminal proceedings should be initiated against senior U.S. officials involved in such strikes. So not only he's calling for U.S. senior officials to be prosecuted for their crimes.
To The Hague.
Exactly. Smith also said a high court in Pakistan ruled, quote, drone strikes carried out by the CIA and U.S. authorities were a blatant violation of basic human rights and a blatant breach of absolute right to life and a war crime causing many innocent deaths. The defense then sought to persuade the court that Assange, quote, disclosed U.S. involvement in criminal activity, and it was, quote, public interest disclosures of war crimes and torture. Some publicized info are currently the subject of criminal investigation into the CIA before the ICC, which is the International Crime Court. So in summary, the prosecution against Assange can be seen as a retaliation for the scrutiny brought to U.S. involvement around the world. So because the U.S. was kind of like targeted as, oh, look at what they're doing, that is why they're prosecuting Assange, according to the court trial. James Lewis, who is the lawyer that was questioning Assange and questioning the witnesses, he was repping the Crown Prosecution Authority on behalf of the United States government, said that the U.S. government only charged Assange with documents that revealed the names of informants, and none of the materials that Stafford Smith was asked about had anything to do with it. So he was trying to throw this whole thing out. And Stafford Smith said that Lewis was, quote, wrong about the way in which cases are prosecuted in the U.S. Smith spoke on the times he dealt with evidence of torture against Guantanamo Bay prisoners being classified, and how the U.S.'s position has been that revealing such information will endanger U.S. and their allies by fueling terrorist attacks in retaliation. Lewis, who is the lawyer, again, said to Smith, "You cannot tell the court how this case will be prosecuted. You're making things up." And it is worth noting that under the Trump administration, I know there are people out there that think Trump might pardon Assange. I think that is ludicrous, because under the Trump administration, the U.S. government has sanctioned officials at the ICC for investigating allegations of war crimes in Afghanistan, likely committed by the CIA, Afghani government's forces, the Taliban, and their affiliates, including an investigation into the CIA rendition and torture program in this country. So those people that are investigating the CIA and these forces are being sanctioned by the Trump administration. So I really don't know why we would think that Trump is going to pardon Assange. I mean, it's worth a try for people to ask for that to happen, but I don't think that's going to happen based on this. So I'm going to go over a couple of other things, but if you guys want to look at more detail, again, the shadowproof.com has done the best job of summarizing each day's proceedings from yesterday's to today's. So again, Kevin Gostola did another thread, but I specifically want to point out that this part right here, although this is from yesterday, this is a comprehensive list from Professor Mark Fieldstein, witness who testified on day one about the frequency of published leaks in journalism. So they were citing examples from 1844 to 2008 of basically leaks regarding like things the government did. Like in 1848, the New York Herald published a secret draft on the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the Mexican-American War. They're trying to show that what Julian Assange did was journalism, and in fact should be allowed to as a way to inform the public. He said, an informed public depends on free and independent press that can serve as a check on governmental abuse of power, kinds of abuses that WikiLeaks has made public. So even though this guy was a witness for Monday, he wanted to reiterate that. Later on, he talks about Stafford Smith and how he revealed the U.S. drone killings, etc. But we go on to see that Julian Assange actually got pretty irritated by the prosecution. And I think it said it right here. Okay, yeah, that's when he said, "I think you're very wrong about the way cases are prosecuted in the U.S." And then if we scroll a little bit further, Assange got really pissed off. I had it directly, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it didn't say it directly.
Let's see. I'll find it. Okay. So much information. Okay, here it is. I do want to point out that Summer Smith brought the Pentagon Papers, and Lewis, who was the attorney of the prosecution, objected, saying this was not part of the initial cross-exam by Assange's lawyer. And Vanessa Barrister actually told the prosecutor he opened the door for this when he discussed the extent to which assisting a source is a crime. So she actually sided with the defense at this time. I don't know. I'm not seeing it somewhere up here, but basically Assange was said, this is ridiculous. I don't want to, he didn't want to deal with it. And then Vanessa Barrister basically said, if you don't stop interrupting, we are going to take you, we're going to remove you from the courtroom. Basically what happened. And it's just, again, the entire thing is biased in favor of the prosecution, not just by the judge being biased, but just by the cherry picking they're doing. They're saying, well, it's not that the problem is that they revealed classified information, because that is allowed. It's freedom of speech, but it's that they revealed the people who were exposing the classified information, and then they were also trying to say he wasn't a real journalist, and that wasn't in the interest of the public, which is why the defense was arguing, look at all these instances in which whistleblowers and journalists have shown the truth that the government hasn't really been honest about. And a lot of people that I was reading about and looking up were saying that it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like there's going to be a victory. It looks like he's going to have to appeal based on everything that's happening. It's probably going to go to an appeals court, and he's going to have to appeal thus far. So let's go to I wanted to show the only person in Congress that has been talking about this at all, that has even mentioned anything, is Tulsi Gabbard. She actually mentioned that the charges against Snowden should be dropped, or he should be pardoned. Likewise, the Trump administration should drop its efforts to charge and extradite Julian Assange. Failure to do so is a threat to the freedom and civil liberties of every American, especially journalists and publishers. And again, she had said this before on April 12th of 2019. Regarding the Assange arrest, she said the message is clear to journalists and all Americans: if you try to take away our power, you will pay a high price. So
yeah, and earlier Pasta did a super chat which said, only Massey, Paul, and Gabbard have spoken out for Snowden and Assange. Bernie and the squad haven't said squat. Time to squash the Dem Party for good.
Yeah, they haven't. And I posted something earlier about that, how like it's a wonder how the squad, I think it's my pinned tweet, like why, like none of the squad, none of the supposed progressives, including Bernie, which is why I asked him on his birthday. Normally I don't do that kind of shit, but I'm like pissed. And then Rokana, like none of these people that are supposedly the most progressive, the beacon, who we should lay our hopes on for the future, have said a goddamn word about Julian Assange. And then you wonder, it's like, well, why should I support that? It seems a very minimal thing to a lot of people, but it's like, this is like, for me, especially as somebody in media, this is for me like such a big deal, because if we're not allowed to do what we do, people aren't going to get the information. If we're not allowed to expose the corruption in the government and hold these people accountable, how the hell do you plan to pass Medicare for all? How the hell do you plan to pass a Green New Deal? How the hell do you plan to pass election reform? How do you plan on doing any of that stuff that you supposedly care about if you're not going to hold these people accountable? And why the hell am I going to vote for you and support you if you're just going to sit quiet when this is like the biggest trial of the decade, if not maybe the century, regarding our civil liberties, and how it shouldn't be relegated as a right wing or a libertarian or anything like that? And how, like, even on the left, on the left online, not that many people are talking about it. More people are talking about electoralism. Like, who are we going to vote for in 2024? Oh, is AOC going to run for president? Do you think that's going to save you from the intelligence community, from the military-industrial complex, when she's falling in line with those same people, the same way that the Democratic establishment has fallen in line? Like, I just don't understand how the left here is so they're just so lost. Like, it is not leftist of you to ignore this. If you consider yourself the left, if you don't, whatever, I don't really care what you consider yourself, but this is an important thing. And I just see so many people like completely ignoring it and completely not demanding it from the people who should be extremely vocal about it, especially if you're going to call yourself a socialist. You can't pretend to really support, to be against fascism of Donald Trump if you're not going to stand up to the fascism that is far worse and is more in control than he is, clearly, of the CIA and the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex. I think a lot of people are scared to stand up to them. I honestly do. I think that's the bottom line. That a lot of people are scared to stand up to them.
Oh, and Gloria says that she's fact-checking Pasta and saying that it was only Tulsi who said something about Assange, and that Massey and
I think Massey has said something about whistleblowers.
About Snowden, I think.
Yeah, but not specifically Assange.
Not specifically Assange.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. If correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen him, but I know he said it about whistleblowers.
Okay.
But Caitlin Johnstone puts it really well, of course. She said the most powerful government in the world is currently conducting a prosecution protecting its right to lie to the public about the evil things that it does. And somehow the public isn't shaking the earth with unmitigated rage about this. I mean, really, like, that is how I feel. Like, I don't understand why people aren't pissed off and like why nobody's talking about this. Like, I'm baffled. And I didn't know the left was this stupid in America, and I'm sorry if that offends people, but like you have, and we're going to go into that in a minute, into what the left, the progressive, the home of the progressives are doing instead of really paying attention to this, which is pretty much just like talking about how bad Donald Trump is. Like that's all their focus is, when literally the Democrats and Republicans fall in line the exact same way when it comes to Julian Assange, when it comes to our foreign policy. If that doesn't change, the domestic is only going to be a facade. It's not really going to change.
Well, fam, I feel like it's part of empire education that, and like the wall of ignorance, right? Like the wall of ignorance. People who went on vacation, people are trying to escape and to avoid the reality that everything is falling apart. Everything, the charade is falling apart. The curtain has been pulled down, and you're seeing the reality that there's racist cops, there's gangs in the sheriff's department in the Los Angeles, and the most blue state in the country, most progressive state in the country. You're seeing black men, minorities being shot in the back multiple times by cops. You're seeing white serial killers being escorted out and given water and food. You're seeing wildfires. You're seeing climate change happen, and people just want to ignore it. And then you hear about Julian Assange, it's like, oh, it's also this, and I don't know. Oh, and there's a rape allegation. Oh yeah, so he's a raper. So.
And by the way, speaking of that, like I sort of covered it, but Caitlin Johnstone has an entire thread. And I'll put it up on my Twitter later, but she has an entire thread debunking every single thing that people have said about Julian Assange, especially the rape allegation, which just sort of, they completely dropped it after he was extradited. After he went into the UK, they completely dropped it. They completely dismissed it. So apparently, like I said, even if that were true, even if the allegations were true, they're using that as a way to distract, right? But they're not. They've been proven false, and it's really interesting that, like, I've seen it on the left too. People are like, "Well, he's a terrible person. He's an asshole." Like, even if he were an asshole, what does that have to do with protecting everybody's freedom of speech? You don't have to like the guy. It's literally about how this is going to set a dangerous precedent if he's prosecuted for informing us on the government lying, which is something that's what the fourth estate is supposed to do. It's supposed to be the checks and balances of our country. In America, in Britain, it's different, but in America, it was supposed to be what really held the government accountable. All of the government accountable, the fourth branch of government, and that's not what it is. It's propaganda now. That's all it is, and it's unfortunate that not enough people are talking about this. So
next segment.
Yeah. So again, we're gonna be covering Assange. We're gonna have a couple people who are there, who are in DC, the Action for Assange group. We're going to be talking to those people to bring you exactly what is going on for people who have been following this for decades, for like the entire decade that it's been happening. And yeah, I think it's important, and we really definitely need to be talking about it constantly. Notice that TYT isn't talking about it at all. They're too busy talking about how Trump is a fascist while ignoring blatant fascism going on. And the next segment has to do a lot with that, like why progressives in the media and think tanks are pushing Biden, because that's extremely, extremely dangerous. And I'll tell you why it's dangerous. So Emma Vigilant had this tweet up that she where she was kind of mocking people for not voting for Biden. Basically, she said, remember the theory that Trump winning in 2016 would galvanize the left behind a progressive nominee that would bring the Democratic Party to its knees in 2020, and thus Trump winning was better for progressives than HRC winning. It was stupid then. Now it's definitely stupid. So I want to hear what you think about that, but first I'm just going to read what I said, because I think it's hypocritical and it's dangerous to ignore the truth of what actually happened, because remember the theory that Hillary would beat Trump, which she didn't. We kept telling people she wouldn't, that voting the lesser of evils would help progressives and bring the Dem Party to its knees in 2020. Didn't happen. Remember when election fraud was thrown out as a conspiracy? That happened. But Russia, that also happened, and it's back now. It was stupid then. Now it's definitely stupid. My whole point in saying that is she's ignoring election fraud completely. She's saying, like, look, if we would have just voted for Hillary and Hillary would have won, everything would be better. Right. And you know, and that would have been the better thing, and we would have been able to have Bernie Sanders. Are you that daft to think that we would have Bernie Sanders if Hillary were president anyway? We wouldn't have Bernie Sanders in either scenario, because it's not about getting people to vote out there. People did go out vote both times. Their votes weren't counted. Again, if you're not going to address the core issue of the problem, then you're just regurgitating bullshit that isn't really addressing the situation we need to address. And that is an entire election revamping. We need ranked choice voting. We need a completely clear and transparent and fair elections, completely open source machines. We need to have an oversight board that looks at these elections. We need to have the public be able to look at these elections. That's not what's happening. So when you completely ignore that and you pretend that, okay, well, if we just vote for Biden, then, you know, everything's going to be better and we're going to be able to fight harder, when literally Biden is still taking the money, for the same money that Hillary was taking, is controlled by the same powers in the military and the CIA that Hillary was controlled by, that even Trump is controlled by. What are you talking about? This, it's the whole system that's the problem. So to start shaming people as it being stupid that you're not going to vote for more of the same bullshit that got you here in the first place, I think it is dangerous, because it's coming from supposed progressives, right? TYT is the home of the progressives. They're supposed to be the progressive leaders. They're supposed to be the ones that are really fighting the establishment. And here they are with their neoliberal talking points that are completely ignoring how the Democratic Party manipulated and rigged these elections both times, how now they want to make Joe Biden the president because it was easier, made Kamala VP, who is likely to be president. I mean, let's look at Joe Biden and how he is, and who knows how long he's going to last. And they wanted Kamala from the start, but she was so awful, and she got knocked out by Tulsi so early on that they had to go with somebody else. But they're going to force it upon us by making the top cop prosecutor, Kamala Harris, the potential president, at a time when we're fighting police brutality in the streets. And they're gonna make it out to be like this, oh, well, she's black, and they are co-opting this entire thing. And it's people, when people parrot this, when people that are supposed to be progressive, that a lot of people don't see it. They're like, oh, well, Emma's a good reporter. She's progressive. She's not Rachel Maddow. So, I mean, what she must say, it must be true. It's more dangerous to me, in my opinion, than a neoliberal. The whole thing is, again, it's the same as a Republican. I can see who a Republican is. I can see who a neoliberal is now. But these fake progressives that are just co-opting everything to get you back into the Democratic Party, to sheep herd you back into this binary thinking, two-party system, and entirely dismiss the real problem, which is election fraud and the corruption in our fucking government. That is, to me, the most dangerous thing, because not a lot of people see it.
Yeah, I mean, this tweet is completely ridiculous. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. Yeah, it completely throws away the fact that Bernie should have won both of these freaking primaries, right?
Yep.
And they completely stole it. They didn't talk about election fraud. They weren't there that night where I was on March 3rd on Super Tuesday.
Zero coverage of
and
election
in the
fraud.
LA County where they count the fucking votes. And I saw them behind a fucking like 6-inch glass wall in these machines that were 2-in-1. And I saw that they were hooked up to another computer with Ethernet cable and a USB. And then now I'm following Raji Rab's case, and we're seeing that he got documents through discovery that shows the whole fucking process of these machines and that they are 2-in-1 and they ran it. He got a statement from the election officials that night that they ran it 10 days prior to the election night, ran vote by mail ballots. And since the machine, which are new, these machines, these super expensive machines that are new by IBML Smart Tech machines, ran it and they're 2-in-1, you get access to the vote count immediately. And we're just going to trust that Dean Logan and his little fucking corrupt motherfuckers didn't do anything and didn't look at it. They have access to the passcode. We saw the list of people that have access, the network administrator, all these people that have access, and there's no oversight. There needs to be a public oversight committee. That's what Raji is demanding. And guess what? TYT is not doing that fucking work, and I don't see them down at these protests. So who's really the home of the progressives? Not TYT.
Exactly. And so, again, they have been entirely they're pretty much MSNBC for progressives. And I say that lightly because I don't consider them progressive. So Cenk Uger, a good old Cenk, instead of actually, like I said, instead of talking about the things that are important, he's shaming people who aren't voting for Biden. In this tweet in September, he said, "Why are people so dense? I'm mad at them because they can't win elections when I want them to win. So yes, vote for the non-fascists, and meanwhile, encourage them to fight harder against the fascists." Why is that at all hard to understand? Because they're both fucking fascists, Cenk. You're like, why is voting for a fascist that has a freaking rainbow on his head better than voting for the other fascist that's just a flat out fascist? Like, one is lying to you, but he's really a fascist. It's called crypto-fascism. The other one is a flat-out fascist. Why are you going to attack people for not wanting to take either poison instead of telling people, hey, you know what? Yeah, vote for whoever you want, but let's look at really what's the problem. Our election system, the corruption in politics. Let's look at how none of our votes are counting. Let's look at how corrupt the California Democrats are. Democrats in California are proof that having a Democratic supermajority and a democratically controlled state, which is the 5th largest economy, we could literally be a country on our own, doesn't guarantee that things are going to be any fucking better. Because guess what? We have all the Democrats. We have the worst Democrats. They're so god awful that the state is on fire. The state has a giant homeless population, housing crisis, eviction crisis. People aren't getting the help they need. Half of the businesses are closing down. It is bad. Bad. But yet you have the audacity to pretend that voting for Joe Biden is going to fix every underlying rotting shit that has been ongoing for the past 100 years that we haven't even fixed. So again, instead of talking and doing the real work, they're literally gaslighting people into voting for Joe Biden, into fundraising for Joe Biden, into sheep herding back into the Democratic Party. And it's disgusting. And anybody that says, TYT is great and progressive, I'm like, no, flat out no. They're freaking gaslighters and they're lying and they're MSNBC light as of yet.
And they took on the whole Russia thing, which is why Jimmy left. I think he said in a live stream. So, you know what I'm saying?
And I'm not calling them out just because, I hate them or whatever. No, this is like somebody I used to watch, and it's disgusting to see where media falls. This is why. And again, they haven't said a goddamn word about Julian Assange. You have to know, write down who's talking about Julian Assange, because the people that aren't talking about Julian Assange, they're not here for you. They're not here for the people, because journalism is informing people. Everything else is public relations. Journalism is talking about the things that the government and others don't want you to talk about. Everything else is public relations, because I studied public relations as well, and it's literally a bunch of bullshit. It is how to trick people into thinking one way, into buying something, into perceiving something. That's what the media, mainstream media, is doing, and that's what they've been doing for a really long time. And the People for Bernie are another organization that I've been suspect of for a while. They were, during the whole campaign, they were completely ignoring all the things that were wrong with the campaign. They were just being Bernie cheerleaders.
Weren't they like pro-Warren?
They were pro-Warren. there are questionable people, and I have to get a few things from my sources, but there are questionable people heading the People for Bernie that have ties to very like pro, just very corrupt organizations, and I'll bring that back up when the time comes. But I want to read. They deleted this tweet. Because it was really bad. But Sarcasm Stardust, Comrade Misty is Putin's baby, or buddy, sorry. That might be a good name too. And she said, look at this pile of horseshit. And it was the People for Bernie saying, if you're choosing not to vote out a fascist, maybe you are anti-fascist. Again, pushing that whole vote for Biden thing. It's already enough. Bernie Sanders is already doing it. I don't need you guys to also do it. And then they got so ratio that they deleted the whole thing. But as I said, the damage is there. This
because
woman,
our voice is strong, fam. Our voice is strong. We got to call it out. We call it out like it is. We call it out like it's real. That's why thank you, Fred Edward. When Cenk did a tweet, you saying, I'm seeing it right now. You called them out and recommended us as real independent news. Thank you. We also have another super chat from Glory. Says, I tell Cenk to come to LASD to see how fascism is done in a blue state, but you probably couldn't handle it. I'm going back tonight. And I'm going earlier, and we're going to see what happens because we're about to cover that. That's the next topic. What else is on this, fam?
I just want to read this by Aaron Matei in this video by Kamala because this has to do with the whole bullshit that Biden and Harris are somehow going to save the day when they're once again pushing Russiagate and Russiagate interference. And Aaron said, Kamala Harris says Russian interference could cost the Biden campaign the election. If Russia has anything to do with costing Democrats the 2020 election, it will be because they spent 4 years spewing unhinged Russiagate paranoia to excuse losing the 2016 election. Again, Democrats want to talk about election rigging by a foreign country, but the moment you start talking about them doing it, oh, no. Like, no, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. This is why nobody covers it, because they don't want to be branded as conspiracy theorists. This is why nobody touches it, because of the stigma associated with election fraud, election rigging, saying the word it's rigged. Fuck that. We have to normalize it. Because if we don't talk about it, it's going to remain this taboo topic that people aren't talking about, that is only relegated for foreign entities or Republicans only, when we know very well that Democrats do it, especially during the primaries. So let's hear what Kamala said, because it's only 11 seconds.
Does she sound crazy? Does she sound delusional? Let's see.
As usual.
And I do believe that there will be foreign interference in the 2020 election and that Russia will be at the front of the line.
Could it cost you the White House?
Theoretically, of course. Yes. And I do believe that there will be...
I saw a video the other day on Instagram, and I think it was Kamala on Breakfast Club, and I think it's a recent interview.
Yeah.
And like she was talking about how she believes that Russia is the whole troll farm and everything. And it was like, they were looking at her like, so you really believe like Russia like did all this? And it's like,
I think people are
ridiculous.
starting to get
like,
it.
Yeah, I think more and more people are starting to see that it's bullshit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I'm really scared. I'm really scared of this election because I'm saying it right now. I'm calling it out. It's gonna be a contested election.
Yeah.
And with everything going on right now, it looks like civil wars. I don't know. The streets are looking rough right now. The streets are looking rough. California's burning down. Hurricane just hit Louisiana. I don't know what's gonna happen, fam.
Yeah.
Trump might do a fascist takeover. That's a possibility. He's emboldening white supremacists, and
I don't think Trump wants to be president though.
Maybe now, I don't know. Maybe he's been pissed off enough that he will. Like, I feel like he's dumb enough to be like that. I don't know.
I think this is a whole charade. I mean, I think the Democrats don't want to win. I think Trump's gonna win. I think it's gonna be contested. I think they're gonna say he cheated, that it's rigged, that Russia did it, as they've already been paving that way. I think Kamala is gonna be the one that's, if by chance the Democrats win, she's going to be the president. I think they're both going to try to cheat, and it's a shit show.
They're both cheating, both Democrats
cheats,
and Republicans cheating. Trump's cheating in different ways. He did Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
was really just.
I still think Trump has a lot more support than the Democratic Party.
His support is stronger.
Yeah.
Because Joe Biden doesn't inspire anybody.
Well, yeah, at least Trump inspires people, obviously in a negative
base,
way.
Right?
But he inspires people, like I said, like we said last week on the show. They're talking to their base. They're doing what their base wants them to do. Whereas Democrats are talking to literally their lobbyists, and that's it. They're completely ignoring what the vast majority of Democrats want, because Democratic people who are part of the Democratic Party, you know, as obnoxious and neoliberal as it might be, are okay with Medicare for all. They're okay with, you know, like a Green New Deal and things like that. They're okay with that. It's the Democratic establishment that isn't listening to them. So they're losing a lot of that. And Biden doesn't seem like somebody strong enough to lead. And a lot of people go with that gut instinct, like, I don't like Trump, but at least, you know, he's strong and he's going to show whatever, you know. That's at the basic instinct, that's what people sometimes look at. Fam. So last night, what happened last night?
All right, everybody. So this is the next segment. Give me a second here. We have 222 people on. Thank you so much for coming on and watching us.
Do you have any super chats?
Real.
Oh, Glory, thank you.
Real, you know. Why didn't that change? Hold on 1 second, fam.
Good discussions in the chats, I see.
Let me get this set up, fam, real quick.
I mean, I think a lot of people still need to know about Kamala and Biden, because especially what Joe Biden did and what Bill Clinton did as president, signing the crime bill and what that did, and how Kamala has failed to prosecute pedophiles, failed to prosecute the right people, and prosecuted innocent people for like marijuana convictions.
Yeah, Kamala's terrible, and she has a terrible history, and it just sucks when I see some of these BLM protesters still going to vote for Joe Biden, and I respectfully disagree, and I understand why, but
yeah,
it's I can't do that, and so okay, all right, so let's start. So, for context, everybody, last night I was at a sheriff's, the LASD in South Central LA. Originally I had this titled as LA Sheriff's Department draws blood at protests last night, and well, they did. I found some blood on the floor. So here's some context. Residents of LA County have been protesting at the Sheriff's Department on Imperial Highway since the murder of Dijon Kizzee by a LA Sheriff's Department trainee and supervisor. So here, I'm going to show you the map of where these protests are happening. So here's the LA County Sheriff's Department. People have been protesting right here in their parking lot, and it's been wild since the night of his murder. They've been protesting. The sheriffs don't get to be judge, executioner, and the jury on the street. Man, you gotta fucking. Why they gotta shoot people? They trained him wrong. Look, they trained him wrong, and he shot a guy 20 times in the back. It must have been the supervisor and the trainee both unloading clips into the back of this man. Now, and that was on Monday, August 31st. And you know, I was on the ground that night, the same day that it happened. And here's just some video of that. So we were there. That's what it looks like. It's got 5,000 views, this live stream. People were protesting on the street where his body laid there for hours into the night. His body laid there. It happened at like earlier in the day. I think it was around 4 p.m. it happened, and then his body was there till like 8 or 9. So they had multiple helicopters there flying around. That was that night. Eventually, the protest moved to the sheriff's department, and I showed you on the map where that was. So that's the protest, and they were flashing flashlights, had umbrellas. Sheriff's department was pretty tame this night. I'd say nearly 100 protesters were there that night. They got extremely close to the sheriff line, even knocked down the yellow tape. They always put up the yellow tape up, and they knocked it down multiple times. Sheriffs had called an unlawful assembly, and eventually just kind of advanced forward. And just didn't shoot anything. They didn't shoot anything. People just got away. It was the first night. People just got away. And hold on, let me go back. So yeah, people left, right? And then they started marching around everywhere. They started marching around neighborhoods. And actually, one protester, At the very end, they came back to the sheriff's department. I don't know if you guys remember this auto-tune guy, Lord Blobby.
Oh, yeah. Lord Blobby.
He's got a big-ass speaker. So the commanding officer was, giving out orders to the people saying this is unlawful assembly and, to get away. And Lord Blobby was speaking over him. And they actually, right here, when they marched to the end of their parking lot, they, out of nowhere, attacked Lord Blobby, went and tackled him. Right here. Sorry. I'll just show this real quick. Just to show you. So that was the most aggressive thing that happened that night, is that they went and attacked this
treat animals
protester.
that way? Do you treat animals that way? Why is the life of a black man?
Oh shit, they're going after Lord Blobby? Oh shit. Oh shit. Wow. Oh shit, hold on, I gotta make sure I record this. That was like the first night in a while since I've been out there. So next time I'm gonna be running next to them.
I swear to God, they're beating the shit out of him.
I thought they were beating him. I haven't been able to contact him since to confirm that. But it took like 4 or 5 of them to tackle him, and they arrested him. And at one point, a sheriff touched me, pushed me back.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
Don't push me, please. Member of the press. That's the commanding officer right there.
They sound just like the U.S. government that doesn't want you filming the bullshit they're doing, the injustices they're committing. They're gonna imprison you just like they've imprisoned Julian Assange for covering that. I mean, that's literally what they do to some journalists at protests. I mean, that's kind of what happened to us before. So it's kind of like, I don't put it past them to do that, because if the government okays it, if Julian Assange is in prison, then guess they can do the same thing on the ground. This is what people don't get. It's all connected.
So yeah, again, this was on August 31st. This is the night of when Dijon Kizzee got shot. So he got shot earlier that day. That was that night, and I was just showing it. No tear gas or anything like that was launched, although there was something in the air that I was coughing, and you can hear that in the live stream. But 2 days ago, on September 5th, I'm just kind of just giving a quick summary and then leading up to last night. 2 days ago, September 5th, BLMLA held a Biking for Dijon event. Protest for Dijon is bring your bikes, roller skates, skateboards, and energy. So they were just they start at 4 p.m. and then in front of the sheriff's station, and then they were biking and marching and protesting all around. They actually shut down the highway at some point. So here's some video of that. So there they are marching, people roller skating, you can see it. And yeah, so there's some of that footage. That night, some protesters stayed there. BLMLA kind of leaves, but some protesters stay there, and this happened.
Fucking piece of shit!
Yeah, Glory said Saturday was when they mazed a child before the protest got taken to the highway. It almost escalated even before that night.
Okay, so it was before.
Yeah. And so then people were fighting back.
This was the night of. So
that.
yeah, I was trying to figure out when that girl got maced, because I was going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it looks like, because you can see in this picture, this little girl who was on roller skating. Let me just read this. It says, with zero provocation at a BLMLA protest for Dijon Kizzee, where families were encouraged to come on skates, bikes, etc., Los Angeles sheriffs fired a tear gas canister near my 7-year-old. I'm livid. No one crossed the barrier that sheriffs were several feet behind. No one engaged with them or escalated anything. They just fired a tear gas canister at peaceful folks, and my child was in pain. Look at her. Crying. She literally was on skates in the spirit of bikers and skaters, etc., who had been encouraged for a peaceful gathering. Kiana. So she got tear gassed. A little girl got tear gassed. She's 7 years old and she got tear gassed by the sheriff's department. Why?
Who's gonna say the little girl did something wrong?
She was just skating, man. She shouldn't have been there. Okay, so anyways,
what kind of parent takes her child to a protest? I'm already calling it out because I know
it's already in the comments. I already saw it in the comments, fam. You got that. You got that perfectly.
I mean, this is how stupid these excuses are. Like, it's
just keep making fucking
stupid.
Excuses.
Just keep making there will always be an excuse. Always.
For these fucking bootlickers. Okay. Anyways, so she actually she said that so there was her daughter held a press conference and she was speaking about being tear gas, and then I guess somebody interrupted. But let's hear this.
When did you realize it was tear gas? What did it feel like for you?
My mom figured out it was tear gas. So when they fired it on my nose and the back of my mouth, it started to hurt. It wasn't my eyes that hurt.
I don't know if you could hear that, but the reporter asked her, when did you realize it was tear gas? She was like, well, I could feel it in my throat and my nose and all that. And it's really sad to hear that.
They gotta get on. They gotta stop all this shit. Excuse me. Anybody in the circle live in this neighborhood? 1 second.
So then someone interrupted.
Sir, you're interrupting a trial. Can you give us a moment?
I'm sorry.
She was tear gassed by sheriffs. She was tear gassed by sheriffs.
There's a child living in this neighborhood.
She was tear gassed by child.
Girl living in the neighborhood.
She was assaulted by sheriffs.
Where?
Do you not support
Where?
her? Do you not support
I said,
her?
where was she assaulted?
When they fired tear gas.
Do you not support
I said,
her?
where was she assaulted?
Right here.
Here?
Yes.
In this district?
Yes.
In this district, she can speak then. Does anybody else live in this neighborhood?
Have you stepped forward for her?
What did you say? Where you living? What neighborhood are you from? I said, what
Are y'all serious?
What neighborhood are you from?
Are you serious?
Are you from the
Stop and let me
Are you from the 43rd district?
I'm the black girl who was fired by tear gas.
He's not.
Get out!
Then why aren't you standing up for my child? Then why aren't you? Wait a minute. Then why aren't y'all standing up for my child? Then why aren't y'all standing up for my child? Because they are.
Wait. What was the child doing here at nighttime whenever the cops...
It wasn't at night. Why are you making an assumption? It wasn't at night.
What was the child doing here anyway?
Why are you giving me a white supremacist narrative? What was she doing? There was nothing that she was doing. That's a white supremacist narrative.
That's the problem that we have.
This is a problem. You guys are squashing the voices of a child. You are. Do you not support her?
So apparently that was Joe Collins.
Joe Collins.
Yeah, he's a Republican running for the 43rd Congressional District against Maxine Waters. And
well, he's gonna lose.
He's gonna lose.
He's gonna lose. I'm sorry to tell you, he's gonna lose, or not. Sorry, I don't like Maxine Waters, but he's not. I mean, this guy
he fucked up really.
He fucked up really bad.
Well, I mean, it's his belief, right? His belief that
But he made assumptions. He assumed that she brought her daughter
at night.
At night. That's the thing. You're making assumptions. You can't assume that. This was in broad daylight.
Yeah, look at her, because like you can see the photo.
I would be irritated.
She's crying there, and it's daylight. So
it's
daylight. It was before, and Glory Jones just
confirmed it.
She was there, and
riding a bike too. Like, it's supposed to be a peaceful protest. Like, especially it was BLM who did this, who conducted this, or was it not?
It was BLM-LA under Melina Abdullah.
Right. So BLM-LA, some people don't like it, that they're not radical enough, but I know that this was done during the day.
Melina's been getting harder and harder. I don't know. I've been really liking what I've been seeing from Melina. But,
I like what Melina says all the time, but what I'm saying is when they conduct protests, they're very like literally the people that are super like
they go
peaceful
home when it turns dark.
Yeah, don't attack the cops, don't throw anything at the cops, don't distract from the like they're literally super like peaceful about everything. Other groups are a little bit more radical. They're the ones that I've seen time and time again. They're very peaceful. They literally just leave. Some people are like, well, that's not good enough. You need to go after the cops. They're the ones that actually just are really like, good with it. So it's interesting that it happened to them. I wonder if their tactics will change now. I don't know. But again, Why? Even if it was nighttime, right? Like, why are we shifting the focus on the little girl and her parents? Why are we not focused on the fact that the police amazed her, which is the problem?
Right. So this guy comes out,
right?
Like, oh, why'd you bring the girl out? And then, I don't know if it seems like he hasn't said shit about Dejan Kizzy. So
yeah.
So that next day, they said tonight emergency protest. There was a flyer. So on the 6th. 8:30 p.m. Right in front of the sheriff's department again. LA sheriff shot unprovoked into a crowd. Riot munitions struck this little girl yesterday. So the next day they did that, and then this was that day. So they're calling it LASD Night 2. And not even 5 minutes into a peaceful protest, the assembly was declared unlawful, and they did what they do.
Go, 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 go.
Sure who's shooting fireworks. I think protesters are shooting fireworks, and then some of the smoke might be coming from tear canisters. But anyways, that was that night. Another crazy night, and then last night. Okay, so
Monday night. Last night.
Let's just watch these videos. So this is what happened last night. This is night 3. They were protesting again all night because, the people have the right to protest at publicly owned land, which is the sheriff's department. And as long as they're peaceful, which they have been. And so let's watch this. This is what happened last night. And then I came out shortly right after this happened. And...
Look at him! Whoa! We ain't even fucking doing anything! He did it like he was almost a gangster that won by the white.
Okay, so what you're hearing is they're shooting paintball guns filled with pepper balls, and they're also shooting, it looks like concussion grenades, which basically are just like boom, and then like they're supposed to disorient somebody and also kind of like blow your eardrums a little bit. Throw your blow. I'm calling them concussion grenades. I don't know what the actual name of it is, but I know it's supposed to disorient a person and fucking scare them away, right? So that's what you're seeing. This is one angle. This was from Be Like Mike, who is he's been a journalist on the ground. He takes some great pictures. He's a great journalist. And then here's another angle from activist Andy, and I'm gonna have to.
Like he was almost a gangster that won by the white.
The important thing is that the sheriffs didn't start shooting until they just put up this little. The protesters put up this little barricade. They were just bringing up this little cabinet thing, and I don't think that's a good enough reason to start shooting at protesters.
No,
this whole time it's not a good a good reason to shoot at any protesters. They're exercising their First Amendment right, and they're not doing anything.
Oh shit! Fuck! Oh my god! Oh shit! We gotta run. Come on! Back! Oh, Daddy, come on! Come on! Oh shit! Oh my god! Hey, stay together! Stay together! Stay together! Stay together! Guys! Come on! Stay together, guys!
I feel like this is a war zone.
Stay together!
They follow them. Yeah, I know. This is starting to become looking more like Portland. The police follow them and they fire more rounds.
Water! There's one! Water over there!
People asking for water. There's pepper balls and plastic. Hard plastic.
The water's over there, guys!
Also release chemical irritants.
Hey, anybody get hit with pepper spray
These
here?
are war weapons.
The cloud's coming this way! Cloud's coming this way!
But our First Amendment right.
Stay together!
It's under siege. Anyway.
Stay together! Oh shit! Stay together! Oh shit! Oh my god! Stay together! Stay together! Stay together!
How many protesters? Do you know?
I'd say it was around 60 to 80. So that was activist Andy, who's been on the ground like every day also. Yeah. And then here is, I think it was the same angle. Yeah, that was the same angle. I just wanted to make sure that was the same angle. Here's so when I went down there, and I basically, I missed it all. There was the aftermath, and I was just documenting everything that I could find. And there were two journalists there, and one of them had his own video. He was on the corner, kind of next to the activist Andy, who was there, and he showed us on the stream here last night.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, journalists were getting maced. Not only were they getting hit with the plastic balls, they were also getting maced in the face. I passed when I was on my way there. I passed by a few journalists, and one of them was wiping their face with water. It looks like they used mace on their face. So you're getting hit with concussion grenades, which is what I call them, but they basically explode, and then tear gas gets released, and then it disorients you. Plastic pepper balls, and then also mace, like just straight up liquid mace.
So was this on purpose? Like, did they actually attempt to hit them, or was it like?
Yeah, it was just like right in their face. So.
There's just
Yeah, they don't care. They didn't care.
Yeah, no, this is wild.
That's insane. I don't know if you could see that clearly. It was a bunch of bullets being shot, a bunch of rubber bullets being shot. I thought it was rubber bullets until I went over there. But I go over there and you can see. If you watch his live stream, you'll see all the stuff I found on the floor. You can see like it looks like they shot like so many times. This guy was speaking fire, and I found blood on the floor over here. Let me see, where is it? Let me just find.
I said you were being Dexter last night because the trail of blood. All right, so I'm going tonight with you. So.
Fam, you're not going.
I'm going.
So these are the pepper balls. You can see that it releases. It's a plastic ball and it releases white chemical irritant.
I hit a woman.
I actually got a little bit of that. I also got the top of a canister. Fam, they don't care. They're
I let them not care. We'll see what happens to them. Because the LAPD kind of has backed off because they have a bunch of lawsuits.
Yeah, they got.
I guess the LASD needs a bunch of lawsuits at them too.
So that's what the ball looks like. It's a plastic little ball. It hits a protester. It gets released. Releases powder into the air. The powder goes into the air. It gets taken. It's light enough that if only a little bit, you start coughing. You just start coughing. It's a chemical irritant. And I found blood on the floor. Where did I find the blood? I found the top of a canister here. Look at that thing. That thing's like military grade.
Yeah.
Why are they using this stuff? This is the stuff we found in Portland. This is in Seattle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, the businesses right there. There's a bunch of like little plastic balls.
Yeah.
Debris that's hit there. I'm interested in the security footage over there. When I rolled up, I saw the sheriffs in that lot clearing it out before they could allowing anybody back in there, and they didn't clear out everything. I found a blood trail. Where's the damn blood trail?
You should collect some of those samples.
I got some of the samples, fam.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, here's the blood trail.
Yeah, nice to be
right
documented.
Here, boom. So someone got really hurt.
Yeah.
Someone really got hurt. So there's a blood pile there. There's like just a pile of blood there. And that's what's happening in the Democratic state of the California and Democratic hippie LA County. There's gangs in the sheriff's department, executioners, and Vikings. Look it up. Let me pull up this little graphic real quick, fam. While you.
I mean, I just think it's crazy. Thoughts? People are still trying to find excuses. I mean, these people, they were there for 5 minutes before this happened.
This one they were there for a few hours, yeah.
But this one they were there for a few hours. But like but I mean, what is the excuse to fire at 80 mostly young protesters that are just like wanting justice? It would be so easy to say, you know what, we're gonna prosecute the cops who did this, and that across the nation. Just prosecute all these people. That's it. You'd see a quelling in all the protests.
Protests would go down.
But it's like they enjoy this or something. It's like they gotta show their superiority or something. Like
it's like test grounds to get more weapons, to get more militarized police. Yeah. Here's the poster that People's City Council posted. So this is all they made like a cool little fun graphic, but it's not cool and whatever. All these fucking gangs. Though the central allegation and whistleblower Deputy Art Gonzalez, look it up. Art Gonzalez sworn testimonies that the executioners dominate the Compton Sheriff's Office. At least 9 other such gangs are known to operate across the Sheriff's Department, and have done so for decades. The Vikings, the Reapers, the Regulators, the Little Devils, Cowboys, 2,000 Boys, 3,000 Boys, Jump Out Boys, most recently the Banditos and the Executioners.
Are these all police gangs?
No, these are all LA Sheriff gangs.
Right.
Sheriffs.
Yeah. Okay, LA sheriffs, but they're cops. Yeah. So they're what I'm saying is they're not civilians or actual like criminal gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Executioners, Banditos, East LA Banditos, Linwood Vikings. That's the one. Jump Out Boys, Century Regulators. Graham just did a segment on it, and he did a pretty good job. He got a good clip from a news segment. Let me just show you really quick the lawsuit of the quick article here.
Yeah.
So Andres Guardado, you've heard about Andres Guardado, and he was killed by a sheriff's deputy, also shot in the back. He was 18. He was a teenager, I believe so.
Yep.
And
Jean Kissé was 17, 18, I believe.
Yeah, no, he was 18. Shot 5 times in the back in June 18 while working as a security guard.
Supposedly he had a gun.
So, no, yeah, he didn't have anything.
But he didn't have anything.
What's his name? The deputy who was the whistleblower, he says that they always say that they have a gun, so it's just kind of like a fallback thing that maybe they'll have a gun or not, but they always say that they do, and then they just shoot to kill, basically. So that's what's going on, and we're going tonight, so tune into that. Ow!
What do you got to say to Deep Space, who said, look, mommy rioters, arsonists, and looters are here to teach us about, quote, peace and equality?
They're not rioting, man. They didn't hurt any of the none of the businesses there were hurt from the protesters. In fact, they were damaged from the sheriff's department. The protesters there are just protesting out in front of the sheriff's department. They're just there in front of the sheriff's department. They're not looting or anything. So, and that's specifically here. Other places, when they do looting, it's people who aren't even part of the protest, and then they come in and get into the protest. And the looters and the looters are not a big. They're not a big. It's not the whole protest is a looter. And again, you can't. Each protest isn't a monolith. You know, everyone has different opinions and then different strategies. And I don't condone looting, but if people want to loot, I mean, property, to get angry over property instead of getting angry over the fact that this shit is happening and they're still not doing anything, they're still not doing dick about it, is a bigger deal.
Right.
And you should be angry about that more, Deep Space.
So, okay, so tonight that's a thing. So let's get on with these last couple things because there's a lot going on. So I just want to really touch up on the pro-Israeli lawyer who faked vandalism to attack and frame a Scottish Palestinian solidarity campaign. So a lot of the Scots have formed a solidarity with Palestinians for being attacked, especially as of late with by the Israeli government. And this top lawyer faked an entire vandalism attack to frame this group. And his name is Matthew Berlow. And he basically played a key part in faking a graffiti attack on his home, then made up a whole incident to smear the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity campaign. And he's being slammed by legal watchdogs for this plot. And basically what he did is make a fake profile with his friend Ed Sutherland, a teacher at Belmont Academy, and he created this fake Facebook profile under the name Steve Harrison to infiltrate the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity campaign in January of last year. And they are linked to Friends of Israel, which is a group that aims to promote the interests of the country in the UK. So the fake Palestinian supporting activist, Steve Harrison, who they made up for on a Facebook profile, wrote a post highlighting the vandalism on Berlow's home in Glasgow. Berlow and him are friends, so he's pretending to be somebody they don't know, like somebody he doesn't know. And the post said, a certain Jewish lawyer woke up this morning to find Free Palestine spray painted rather prominently. No idea who was responsible. And then it had like a wink wink emoji on it. Berlow fueled the story of the fantasy attack by playing the victim and commenting on the post, saying, idiocy, typical SPSC behavior, criminal. He later admitted to the LSS that he knew that the scenario to be faked, but he claimed he went along with it because the Harrison character was being used to, quote, monitor various disruptive activities in the SPSC. A preliminary ruling found Berlow failed to maintain the standards of behavior expected for a solicitor. And It stated the pertinent issue is the solicitor's comment, typical SPSC behavior, and the association between the SPSC and the supposed act of vandalism in the post. The post was made by the alias Stevie Harrison. The reporter has been provided with no evidence to find that Harrison was recognized as a member of the SPSC. Conversely, as the reporter is satisfied that Harrison is an alias and the social media profile fake, Harrison would naturally be unable to attend any demonstrations or meetings organized by the SPSC. So this is a Facebook post. As you can see, they created this fake profile, and then he kind of, you know, like threw the fishing pole in, saying a certain Jewish lawyer woke up this morning to find Free Palestine spray painted rather prominently. No idea who was responsible. Winky faces. People laughed. Following the words, no idea who was responsible, there were a number of emojis portraying a wink. And
what's this the Scots?
Yeah, so it's a Scottish Palestinian alliance, because like the Scots have been forming an alliance with how the Palestinians have been treated by the Israeli government, and they're trying to use anti-Semitism on Barlow to frame it so that the Palestinians are anti-Semitic. That's what they were trying to do, to get people to say, look, the Palestinians and the SPSC are anti-Semitic. And Mr. Y, like the solicitor, is a supporter of the state of Israel. So these are people that support Israel. Like if you go on their Twitter and their profile, they're huge supporters of what Israel's doing. They called Palestinians terrorists. And basically the reporter made it out to be like it, like, you know, it was like a here's some red meat, take it, oh look what they're doing to Jews, they're being anti-Semitic. And Barlow was the one that claimed that he had launched a sting. He admitted it, that he had launched a sting to catch out a person who was stalking him. He said, unfortunately, I made it too real and named an organization I shouldn't have. It wasn't my intention to blame the SPSC for a fictitious event. But victims are demanding the Society's Professional Conduct Subcommittee forces a lawyer to pay compensation to those smeared by the plot. So he admitted that he lied, and now he's being fined. But I wanted to put this up because there's a lot of, while anti-Semitism is obviously wrong, there is a lot of support for Palestinian people. There's that fight in the UK in the British government. Jeremy Corbyn was smeared again of being anti-Semitic for being pro-Palestine, for being pro-BDS, for being part of that. And instead of like standing up to it, it basically backfired because he wouldn't stand up to it, because he kind of like said, okay, I understand, I shouldn't have made those comments, even though he didn't say anything. It's a common tactic people are using to really go after the Palestinians. And here is the Twitter of Days of Palestinians, kind of reiterating the fact that
yeah, there's a video, right?
Yeah.
Let's play it.
1 second.
What? They're shooting the feet off 18-year-olds who want to play soccer. Don't talk to me about your freedom of speech.
The Scots reject the Israeli occupation and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Thousands of Scots and pro-Palestine people protest at Hampton Park Stadium, where a match will be held against the Israeli occupation team, and they call to cancel it. The demonstrators expressed their rejection of the Israeli occupation, poured red paint on the entrance of the stadium as a symbol of Palestinian blood. They raised slogans reading, "Do not play football with the Israeli apartheid regime." This event comes as a rejection of the Israeli occupation, as well as Israeli repressive practices against the Palestinian people and Israeli violations of international law. They're controlling their water, they're controlling their energy, they don't allow them to build, they don't give them resources to build, and they basically have them in the open air prison. That's what I've seen from Abby Martin's mini doc on Palestine, Gaza Fights for Freedom. And I recommend everybody to watch that.
And I don't know why it's not showing up on mine, but meanwhile, in Palestine, that's let's just show what's going on over there.
It says that more than 50 Palestinians were detained during night raids carried out by Israeli occupation forces in different areas in occupied West Bank. So night raids.
محمود الله يسهل عليك.
All right.
Okay. So, like I said, the Palestinians are under attack, and there's obviously this sort of push to use the idea that anti-Semitism is that criticism of what they're doing is anti-Semitism. But there is a solidarity movement with a lot of Scotsmen being built with Palestine. So it's good to know. It's good to see that that's happening, and how it's related to the truth is that a lot of the times they're framed as terrorist and violent. It's the same plot that happens here. They frame them as terrorist and violent after attacking them and killing them and literally making them demolish their homes. But when they fight back, oh, they're terrorists. So, but the we have in the news just to
real
finish
quick
up the
super
show.
chats, fam. So let's see. Let's taking a look at the super chats here. Glory Jones, y'all better be careful. I don't want y'all hurt or taken away in that CVNT mobile. Yeah, I know. Jim C, bring a pack of bottles of H2O. Might need it. The water helps. Malik Clary, be careful, you guys. Sad emoji face, black fist emoji face, and a heart. By the way, have you guys taken the MBTI personality test?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I am an ENFJ P around. It's both sometimes. Depends on what I get.
Yeah, depending on when I take it, I'm either an I or an E, and then I think it was
Johnny's
MTJ.
definitely an I. He's definitely not an
MTJ.
E.
I'm in the E. The best version of me is an E.
No, you're an I. You guys, what
It's
do you
bullshit
think Johnny
because
is?
I go between both.
No,
I go between both.
No. Okay.
I do.
Okay, but at your core, you're an I. I'm sorry.
At the core.
I studied that. Well, I studied psychology for a while. So a Bolivian court on Monday, in the news, denied former leader Evo Morales' bid to be the Senate candidate. So he wanted to run as a Senate candidate with a VP for his party, the Movement for Socialism, MAS. But they said he can't do that because he does not meet the residency requirements. And it's bullshit. Yeah.
I thought he was hiding out from Bolivia.
He is. He's living in exile in Argentina.
If he goes back, he's going to get murdered.
But the general elections are scheduled for October 18th after being delayed for the coronavirus pandemic.
There's literal fascists in Bolivia now.
And
literal, like you can see the current president. She's got pictures where she's with the Nazi hand symbol up, and in pictures with a group of other people with their hands up like
pretty
that.
Awful.
We covered that a long time ago, but
she's pretty awful. And then I don't know if I had anything on there. My thing isn't showing. You want to pull up the next one?
It was another tweet. It was Ali Vargas. Evo Morales is banned again from standing for the Senate. Not a surprise, but it won't stop the MAS from winning. Evo and Luis Arce's record of reducing poverty speaks for itself. It's the reason MAS are racing ahead in the polls. The pro-U.S. candidates can't stop the inevitable.
So he thinks that the movement is gonna win, not the movement.
People
the
don't
party.
Want to die again because they murdered fucking indigenous people on the streets. They'll try to stop the inevitable, but they'll try to commit electoral fraud, etc. However, they also know that they'll probably have to flee to Miami if they tried that. The country would be ungovernable. Yeah, so
this is crazy.
There's that, guys. I mean, Evo Morales. Hey, you got Evo Morales tweets.
Yeah.
What does it say? Bajo amenazas y presiones de procesos Under threats and pressures from the processes, the adjudicator made an illegal and unconstitutional political decision. History shows that they will be able to disable Evo, but they will not be able to outlaw the people.
Yeah. So,
he said after that, nosotros, we will abide by that decision because our commitment and priority is for the people to come out of the crisis. We will not fall into any provocation. The people will once again govern themselves peacefully and democratically.
yeah, so he doesn't want to, like, push buttons. He's going to stay away. He's going to, play it safe. But he thinks that their party, the movement the MAS, is going to win.
He fucked up by not having the military like Maduro has. Maduro has control of the military.
He's definitely more pacifist than Maduro. Maduro's
more
definitely
pacifist.
more like...
Well, Maduro's playing it smart also because he hasn't really attacked Guaido at all.
Yeah.
Because Guaido's just a clown, basically. What's the next one you got?
Kamala Harris speaks with Jacob Blake. So there was this post made on Kamala Harris speaking with Jacob Blake, and it's really obnoxious because...
Told him she is proud of him.
Yeah.
The fuck?
It's literally, she's a self-described top cop, has jailed more people, especially black and brown people, than any other prosecutor. She's a marijuana convictions, refused to prosecute pedophiles, refused to prosecute Mnuchin. And yet she's proud of Jacob Blake, and here, this is where we lose people, because it's people like Harris and Biden that are going to try to co-opt this and try to be like, oh, look, we're going to do this for you. How the hell is Kamala Harris, out of all people, going to do anything for the black community when she jailed them? And she was able to do that because of people like Joe Biden implementing the crime bill and Bill Clinton signing it into law. All these Democrats. This is where you lose people, where you start this is why we have to call it out, because it's not okay that she gets to freaking capitalize on this family's hurt by going in there and trying to make it about electing her and Joe Biden, because that's ultimately what it's about. Oh, if I can get Jacob Blake and his family on my side, we can get Joe Biden elected and I can be president, because this is all about Kamala. I mean,
politics.
This is all about her.
Politics.
She wants to be president.
Yeah, and she does.
So
she does, and it's really scary because Biden's gonna croak soon, and then the next in line.
Yep.
Kamala Harris. That's really scary. So what does it say here, fam? Do you even want to read it?
No, that's okay. We can just, you guys can just look it up on your own.
Ben Crump, they released a little statement. Senator Harris had an inspirational and uplifting 1-hour visit with Jacob Blake Jr. Yeah, so I'm not going to read it.
And just to finish up the show, I wanted to say rest in peace to Kevin Zeese. He's been on the show a couple times. He's an activist. He was there protecting the Venezuelan embassy from the Guaido opposition leadership, backed by the U.S. right wing, like Marco Rubio and the Democrats. They were both in agreement when it came to invading Venezuela and ousting their democratically elected leader, Maduro, and putting in Juan Guaido. And he was one of the embassy protectors there that had to endure all this crap by these neo-fascists.
Water getting shut off. Racist Guaido supporters that we have in video. Like, you can we'll look up Convo Couch and look up Guaido supporters, and you'll find all the racist and homophobic remarks and sexist remarks they make. And then so here's a video of Kevin. This is hilarious. He takes a portrait of Maduro and is showing it to the crowd down there. All the Juan Guaido's right-wing goon squad.
Goons.
I like that. Goon squad.
Goons.
Some people are sending Some people.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Kevin Zeese.
Rest in power. He passed away from a heart attack. 2020 has been crazy, you guys. Like, I was just like, this is insane. We were in San Diego seeing like the smoke of fires, and all of a sudden I get this like, oh my God, Kevin Zeese is It's crazy. So rest in power. You know, we need more people like Kevin to fight the establishment, you know, regardless of any sort of like, you know, Green Party situation that he had with a lot of people. He was definitely somebody that fought against the establishment, really walked the walk when it came to doing the activism and doing the protests. And I had just spoken to him not that long ago, so it was really shitty to hear that he's gone. So again, guys, be very careful. These are crazy times. Check in on each other, you know.
Specifically now, I mean, a lot of people I've been talking to have just not been feeling good at all. And I mean, I get it. You see it. You see it all. The media's fake. The mainstream media is fake. Yeah. And we're showing reality, and the choices suck for president. Joe Biden can barely finish a sentence. Trump is a empowering racist.
Kamala's a cop.
Kamala's a cop, and yeah, I mean,
the world, the California is on fire.
China's becoming more and more of a superpower, world power. I really think if Biden gets elected, that he's going to try and start a war with China.
Yep.
He already said in the debates that he would move 75% of the U.S. warships into the South China Sea.
And he and Kamala don't know anything about foreign policy.
No, they just listen to the deep state goons.
Exactly.
The CIA, who's watching right now. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
We're coming for you.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
The unelected officials, they can all suck one.
So, from Fiorella.
And Jonny. And Pasta's coming back tomorrow, but I think we're going to do a show in 2 days.
Yeah, and we'll have Lisa Savage on tomorrow. She's running for Maine in the Green Party for Congress, I believe. And we're excited. She's awesome. So we'll see you guys then.
Well, fuck the CIA.
Convo out. Well, we might be live tonight. So
yeah, we're going to be live.
Check us out.
Yeah. Peace out, everybody.